Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thanks, Costas and Peter, for organizing this. As said before and introduced by Costas, I'm a PhD student and I'm cross-supervised by ICP and computer science. So I'm walking the edge between humanities and computer science with my project, and which is here entitled Discovering Novel Pathways Through Collection Systems, a Museum Recommender System. Next slide, please, Peter. So just to introduce you to the MuseRec system, as I call it, it's a recommender system that uses digital museum collections. Most of you might be familiar with recommender systems from the likes of Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, and other retailers and big applications that use this in a day-to-day basis. This whole project was born out of the idea to support co-curation of community-generated exhibitions and to facilitate exploration of collections on learning platforms. Having worked as a museum educator myself for a very long time, I struggled to engage people outside of the museum, and I thought, especially driven by COVID, there must be other means where people are engaging on a daily basis with machine learning algorithms that facilitate content consumption. So I kind of diverted to using a museum recommender system to explore museum collections. As with all machine learning applications, it's the hungry caterpillar of data. So I needed to find some data partnerships to provide me with museum collections data. And these are the Smithsonian institutions in the States, Art UK here, the National Gallery in London, and Manchester Art Gallery here in Manchester. These are all inherently differently grown and inherently different collections, which makes it really interesting to work with. And I shall come back to that a bit later. What I aim for is to create individually tailored pathways. So away from a classical or traditional keyword search, when you go on museum websites and you have your keyword search, abandonment rates are quite high because it demands of people to have a certain expert knowledge. So basically you need to know what you're searching for in a museum collection to find it. It further helps and creates the potential to capture the tastes and interests of users. And it's fed with metadata and images, which is obviously extendable. There can be 3D models included or moving images such as videos. Currently, it uses metadata and images. And I'm also interested in a combination of different machine learning models as they might compensate for shortfalls of data sets. As I've said before, these are inherently grown over history. There are misspellings, there are non-entries, and these shortfalls can basically now be compensated with having image and metadata combined methods. What hasn't been entered as a metadata might be seen as similar by an autoencoder, for example, which is one of the machine learning techniques I'm working with, and flag it as this is similar to this artist. So a curator or anyone working with these collections might then make attributions based on this. It's also to highlight that the system acts as an intermediary and a facilitator rather than a mere access or endpoint. So the system is a kind of fluid way of engaging with it, and it should facilitate it, and it should not be this kind of authoritative curatorial approach or the top-down approach where we display something to the user and tell them how it should be consumed. Next slide, please. To do this, I've created this 5-step recommender lifecycle based on museum data. I'm going to walk you through quite quickly because I know we're behind time. And the first thing is to question the data. Sophia said this before, it's really important to challenge bias and ethical concerns in the data sets, not just from a museum perspective, but especially from the AI and machine learning perspective as well. And this is a quite interesting approach and learning field for both disciplines to question and challenge each other in this sense. Then obviously there's a definition of target audience, the use cases that we want to use the machine learning model for, the user interaction and journey planning, and the goals of my design. The third step will be analyzing and engineering. It's obviously the evaluation of the data. What have I got? There's a lot of cleaning and denoising in museum data required, and feature engineering, such as the decisions of what data to include, are also really important when working with AI, because often data sets are acquired without asking them really where the data is coming from. And obviously, do we want to correct missing values, and how are we doing this? The next step is then the actual machine learning model. This is based on algorithms. There are different models and approaches, and I need to think of the system requirements, obviously. And then the fifth step is use and evaluation of the model. There are different aspects to it, such as model evaluation, which will be accuracy or performance, for example, which is a very model-based approach. User-centric evaluation, for example, is then more interesting. What does the user actually think, and how does the user evaluate models according to the interaction with it? And then obviously future methods of sharing and storing this information that was created by a recommender system using museum collection data. Thank you very much.